And welcome back to Subculture After Dark. Well, we are going to take a look now at a brand new EP that is out there. It is called the Precursor EP, and it's been released by Cthulhu Dreamt. And we thought, what better way than to find out a little bit more about this album, but to get some members of the band on the phone. So, guys, welcome to the program.
Hey, how's it going?
Now, guys, we've been hearing a little bit more from you guys over the past couple of months with this EP and the singles coming off it. So I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of a rundown on the history of the band for those out there that have been hearing your music for the first time over the last few months.
Yeah, sure. So we started during the pandemic, and it was just kind of one of those things where I'm Reed, by the way, all you listeners, hi. But I wanted to do a project that allowed me to kind of deal with a bunch of issues that I had from losing a daughter, and I invited a bunch of friends to kind of jump in with me and collaborate on writing just like some crazy off the wall stuff, like metal, but like also trap music and synth-based stuff and like movie score music, like just kind of all combined so that we could tell a story essentially through this project. And we released our first album in January of 2021, self-titled, and the story kind of is an analogy for how I was dealing with those issues, and it follows like this scientist who lost their kid and wanted to reunite with them through like advancements in science, and essentially they opened a portal, but unknowingly also brought Cthulhu into the world. And Cthulhu is like a representation of all the negative and just the monstrous things that we can't control as humans, like grief and depression and loss, and so that's kind of how the story began. And like I was so hyped after the first album came out, like we just started writing immediately. And the second album, Liminality, we released in March of 22. And kind of around that time too, we teamed up with a game company to start work on a tabletop role-playing game where like based in the world of Cthulhu Dreamt. And so we started work on that, but like that's almost going to be coming to fruition here in a few weeks. But in the meantime, then we wrote more music, and that's the Precursor EP, which came out in January of 23. So yeah, I don't know if I lost
that's the history, the whole history.
So Ben, what were your thoughts when Reed first came to you and said, "Hey, I've got this idea for a band," especially since it was born out of something so deep and personal for him?
So I'm Ben, and Reed and I have been friends for a very long time now. I think we just figured out it was 17 years ago that we met. We were just talking about that today, and so when Reed, the answer when Reed wants to do anything is yes. And I think that the project being so personal, I think made it more exciting for me, just because I love my buddy, But yeah, I think the interesting thing is that I'm not a metal guy. I appreciate metal music and I listen to some of it, but I'm not a guitar person. I play keys and I sing, and so when he came to me and he was like, "I'm working on this like predominantly metal album," I was a little like, "Well, I don't even know how I'm going to help." So, so a lot of what I've done has been like after yeah, you didn't even ask that question. I'm just answering a question you didn't ask. But that's those are my feelings. Like that's how I felt when he asked me. I was just stoked to like jump in and work on. Like I think art that's about something personal and about something traumatic is more powerful. It's like a more exciting thing to make art about. So I found that really exciting and engaging.
So Reed, tell us a little bit more about this tabletop game. I know a lot of our listeners are going to be really, really interested in that. So tell us a little bit about that and how that's come about and how you've built that up.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. So, so I've got a good friend who runs a game development company, like an indie studio, and they make a lot of like stuff for Dungeons and Dragons 5e, and you know, he and I talk from time to time before this, just kind of like running ideas past each other, and like you know, he's got a lot of experience in like marketing stuff and things that I wasn't super familiar with, and we got on the topic of Cthulhu Dreamt, and he's like, "Have you ever thought about turning this into a game?" And I was like, "Well, now I have." And he's like, "Okay, I'll introduce you to some people, and you know, you guys can run with that." And I was like, "Don't you make games?" He's like, "Yeah, but," and I was like, "Dude, I want to do this with my friends. Like, let's do this." And so we've been working on the game for over a couple of years, like just kind of developing ideas, you know, and like the music for the soundtrack, which is like half of the project, is done. Like I finished that a couple months ago, and it's almost 3 hours of music, everything that you kind of expect from Cthulhu Dreamt, except it's all instrumental. So it's kind of like a film score, but it's made for like listening to it as you play through the game, and just kind of highlighting cinematic moments of the story, it's crazy that it's been in development so long, but we're releasing a Kickstarter for it at the end of this month, March 28th, and it's going to be like a pretty awesome book, and we've got one of the band members is a novelist, and he's writing a companion novel about a couple of the characters, and then it's got the immersive soundtrack, and depending on how the Kickstarter does, you know, there'll be various like merch that'll be attached to it. So like, you know, if we do really, really, really well, you know, it could be like a tri-gatefold vinyl with 2 discs, but you know, it's pretty sprawling and massive, and I'm excited to see it kind of come to fruition now.
Has that ever been done before with a soundtrack for a tabletop game? Because I've never heard of that being done before.
Well, see, like that's it. I haven't heard of that either. Like I know there are games and stuff where it's one of those things where when they go to Kickstarter, and then if they hit some kind of reward tier, they'll have somebody make a song or a few songs to kind of accentuate the project. But like this one, straight up, like it starts like no matter what tier you back at, you're gonna get the full soundtrack in the full game, whether it's digital or, you know, the hard copies of like the CD or the vinyl or whatever. But I don't know if I've never seen it like as part of the project on such a massive part of the project from the get-go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Before we move on to Precursor, if people want to help you guys out with the Kickstarter for that, where could they go to help you out? Because I think we've got a lot of listeners that would love to get behind that.
So Cthulhu Dreamt, which is the same spelling as our band name, CTHULHU. Oh my God. Why did we spell it so hard? No, but CthulhuDreamt.com kind of has like all of the preliminary information, and they can add their name to the email list, and or they can search for it on Kickstarter if they want to. But you know, we're going to be like starting the launch on our social media pretty quick here, so if they follow us anywhere there too, they'll be getting bombarded.
Definitely. So, Ben, tell us a little bit about Precursor. Tell us a little bit about this EP and how it came into being. Did you guys have any goals that you wanted to hit with this EP, or what was the main genesis behind it?
So I'm gonna kick it back to Reed, actually, like, because I actually have been a lot more involved with the game. So I'm gonna kick it back over to Reed.
Yeah. Okay. So the Precursor thing, it really was born out of hitting kind of a lull in the game production, as they were doing some other stuff where I wasn't really needed for much on the game development side, and a lot of the music had kind of already taken shape, and I was like, you know, it'd be fun to kind of get some stuff out there that is preliminary to the soundtrack. So there's like some musical themes that you'll hear on the EP that you're going to hear if you're paying attention, to the game soundtrack too. And so, we did this EP, like 7 songs, and then I just kind of put out the bat signal to other guys in the band and some friends of ours too who produce music, and I was like, hey, does anybody want to do like a cover or like a re-envisioning of any of our stuff? And so that's the back half of the EP, like the 7 songs at the end of the album are like covers and reimaginings of stuff that we've already done.
And I did do one of them.
Yeah.
So Ben, what was that like for you, going back and reimagining one of the songs? Like, was that something that you enjoyed doing?
Oh yeah, it was super fun. I was really mad because someone else had already taken the song I wanted, and so I had to go find another one to cover. But I think Reed and I have a really different style and like kind of starting place for making music. I mean, part of that is just like he's a guitar guy and I'm a keys guy, but even just the music that we're inspired by. And so it was really fun to kind of have the rules lifted and I could just kind of reimagine the song however I wanted and play around with it and try to figure out what's the identity of this song, what makes this song what it is, and then what can go away and we don't lose the quality of the song, and what can we add to it. And that was just a really fun process. I really enjoyed that a lot.
So Ben, it seems like I should have asked you earlier as well. What's been your role with the game? What have you been doing with the game, and how have you found that experience?
Yeah, so I kind of have 2 roles in Cthulhu Dreamt. One is kind of a storytelling role, and so I wrote the liner notes for the first 2 albums, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a big part of helping Reed kind of develop, especially early on, the story of the world of Cthulhu, especially the 2 characters at the center of it, Alia and Maya. And so that's been a big part of it. And so like a lot of like what's been handed over to the folks like Chris, who's working on the novel, or the folks at Action Fiction that are working on the game. A lot of that, like I was a big part of developing the material that got handed over to those guys and is being developed into the game. And I was part of a lot of, especially early meetings, like developing kind of what the story of even the game would be. And then the other role that I have is obviously I played keys, but Reed plays keys too. So I played some keys on a few tracks, and then I also am a composer, and so I worked on the soundtrack for the game as well. I've written a few tracks for that, orchestral tracks, for some of the cinematic moments that are going to show up on the soundtrack. So.
Awesome. Well, guys, I hope we can get you back on the show when the game comes out, and also when the novel comes out as well. That would be absolutely amazing. But what are your plans now for the rest of this year?
Well, the game launches on Kickstarter on the 28th, and it runs for 4 weeks, and then I've like been champing at the bit so hard to like get the game kind of off my desk, and because I want to jump into the 3rd album because I've got so many ideas in my head about how I want the 3rd album to be, and like the process is going to change a little bit with how we develop it, because each contributor in Cthulhu Dreamt is going to kind of have their pass, and it's kind of going to be like by committee, as opposed to just like, submission of some riffs and then arrangement and stuff. But the plan is to get album 3 like to where it's going to be awesome, and then release it and start playing shows.
Awesome. So guys, to finish off the interview, what would you like to say to everybody out there before they go and listen to Precursor, but also before the Kickstarter kicks off as well?
First of all, like, thank you to anybody who's listened to us at all already. Thank you for checking us out if you haven't yet, and let us know what you think. Like, if you hate it, let us know. If you love it, let your friends know.
I just did a big thank thank you to anyone that's ever listened to our music. That's just being an artist is lonely, and it was even lonelier during COVID. And it's just great to know that people are paying attention and are engaged. That's just so exciting.
Yeah, and if it connects with anybody, like on any meaningful level, like then our job is already done.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been an absolute honor having you in the show. I'm so excited about this. I genuinely love your music already, and now I've found out about a game and a novel. I am so excited. You've made my day, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dave. Appreciate it.